पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So we are on our discovery of the veil of Maya. In the last session, we discussed some of the important characteristics, that how Maya appears, how it gives us a sense of delusion. It gives you sense of delusion what is not, and how it keeps you completely fascinated, completely, spellbound, and how you continue to live in that veil of Maya. And the moment which is all the time there in this universe, everything is changing, but it gives you an impression of stability, that is telling you that you are in a stable world, which is actually not true. And these are the kind of delusions which Maya gives us. Now, today we will proceed further, and we'll start with the Bhagavad Puran, or Srimad Bhagavatam as we call it. There is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam which says, "The cause of world lies in Maya. The mysterious power of the Lord, or of the Almighty, is the cause of Maya. Apart from the Almighty, it has no independent existence of its own." It's precisely like the oceans and waves. The waves have no independent existence of its own except the ocean. It is precisely the same way. Now we will start with a story, which is a very fascinating story, again from Srimad Bhagavatam, also in Vishnu Puran. There was a time when Narad Ji was with Krishna. It was in Dwapar Yuga, and they were going in a chariot, happily traversing through various jungles and deserts and rivers and all that. So they were traveling together. So Naradji said, "Oh Krishna, why don't you tell me what is Maya? How can I discover that Maya?" So Sri Krishna was little reluctant to tell him anything. But then Narad keep on insisting. So Sri Krishna said, "Okay, I'll tell you all about Maya, but let us just stop first for a while. And can you bring me a glass of water, because I'm very thirsty? You see, now we are in the area of desert. It's very hot. So let me have a little bit of water to quench my thirst. So can you go and bring me a glass of water?" And Krishna pointed out to a nearby hut, which was not very far, that maybe, in those huts you can find some water. Can you bring it? So Narad was very happy that he has a chance to serve the Lord. And he said, "Yes, yes, happily I'll go and bring it." So Naradji got down from the chariot, started walked. He was a little bit tired because it was not so close also, but he finally walked to the hut nearby. He was also feeling thirsty by that time. And he knocked on the hut. A beautiful lady appeared from the hut. Naradji had never seen such a beautiful lady. So he forgot a little bit about water, and he was looking at her face, and he felt a little perplexed. He said, "How do I talk to her now?" But he finally said that, "I need some water." So the lady went in and brought some water. Naradji drank that water. He forgot all about Krishna. And then he thought, while the lady was inside, he thought, how should I talk to her? How should I, make her my companion? So he pretended that he wants to meet her father. He met her father, and finally he was so fascinated that he proposed that I want to marry your daughter. So father was very happy. He said, I can't get a person like Narad who will marry my daughter. So father, organized the what you call Vivah Sanskar very quickly. They bought two malas and everything was organized. And Naradji started living happily in that house. He expanded his, agricultural areas. They acquired some new fields. They worked very hard. Naradji was blessed with three children, one after another. So a period of about 7 to 8 years passed like that. And Narad forgot everything about Krishna. That, one day a very, heavy flood came into the area. It was a played big havoc. So Narad and his wife and his children, they were all, carried away by the flood water. The wife and children died. They could not be escaped. All his fields were completely inundated. His hut was completely destroyed. And Narad was sitting all alone in that, field, which was completely devastated. And all of a sudden, Krishna comes and puts a little tap on his back and says, what are you doing, Narad? Oh, Narad all of a sudden realized where he is, what he is doing. He was supposed to carry the water. And then he realized, what is this? So Krishna asked him, have you understood Maya? What is Maya? So Narad was completely ashamed. He says, yes, I understood Maya. Then he left the place and went with Krishna. That is what Krishna taught him, what is the power of Maya. So the power of Maya is very, very devastating. It's enormous. It keeps us completely intoxicated, fascinated, hypnotized, whatever word you want to use. Now, what are these pillars of Maya which keeps us hypnotized? Let's talk about those pillars. The first pillar of Maya is the wealth. Each one of us want wealth. If our today is safe, we want something for tomorrow. If tomorrow is safe, then we want something for our old age. If old age is safe, we want something for our children. If children are secure, then we want something for our grandchildren. So the cycle of Maya continues one after another. We keep seeking more and more wealth. I personally know a person who used to ride a bicycle, and that time his dream was to have a scooter. So he got a scooter after a few years, and then said, no, I just want a little small car. So after a few years, he got a car. Then he got, two big cars, and then he's now aspiring to have houses in different parts of the country. So, this is the cycle of Maya which continues. That is why we also call the wealth as Maya, but that is also part of Maya. This is not the only part of Maya. There are four major pillars of Maya. So this is the first pillar of Maya, the wealth. It keeps us fascinated. It keeps us, enchanted. And we keep inventing regions in our mind why we need more wealth. And that continues for each one of us unless we get out of the cycle. The second pillar of Maya is sex. The kaam ki ichha, the desire for sex is a very, very big attraction. Particularly in youth, it is much high, but even otherwise. Everything we do, even to some extent, the wealth is acquired for satisfying the sexual desires. Even if you buy a car, you think about, the desire of sex. When you put on your clothes, or when you eat your food, or when you buy your house, when you travel abroad, everything has a built-in layer of sex somewhere. So this is another very important pillar of Maya. which keeps you completely fascinated. If you are dissatisfied with one thing, you go for another, third, fourth. This is a process which continues unless you get out of that cycle finally. The third important pillar of Maya is what we call power, the position of power. Like, somebody wants to become the municipal commissioner, and then he wants to become MLA, and then he wants to become a minister in the state cabinet, then he wants to become chief minister, and then he wants to go to the central government, there he wants to become a member of parliament, then a minister, and then prime minister. So this cycle continues and continues. The desire for power is the third pillar of Maya, which keeps you dragging. Now the fourth pillar is what you call social status or prestige in the society. The power also gives you prestige, but the power gives you prestige as long as you are in power. But once you are out of power, then the society does not recognize him very well. Even if he had been the prime minister of the country in the past, I have met some ministers who were very, powerful ministers in their time, and they lost election and they lost power. And nobody wants to come and see them. They don't even get a phone call from anybody. So this is the state which happens after you lose your so-called, state power. But the other, type of power is the social power. That power comes through social status, through prestige, through, recognition in the society. Now that is the fourth pillar of Maya, which you want to cultivate. You want to create a social status. You want to show to your neighborhood that I mean something. When you pass through, people will recognize you, they will salute you, that kind of feeling. So these are the four important pillars of Maya, and they are not working individually. They are all intermixed. There are several permutation combinations of each one of them. Each is it's a sort of network which continues. It's a matrix where all the four work in some sort of combination. So this is what the Maya keeps us fascinated, and we pursue one of those objectives, either the objective of, state power, or of the objective of sexual desire, or of the objective of wealth or social status. These are, the important pillars. There may be some subsidiary pillars as well along with them, but those are emanating from these four somehow or the other. These four are the most important ones, and a permutation of and combination of these four keeps us completely spellbound. We keep engaged in life with these four pillars. If you think, each one of us, if think one day sitting quietly, we will all find that in different phases of our life, we were propelled or we were fascinated by one of these pillars, which kept us completely engaged and spellbound. So this is the what you call the basic uh, approach of Maya, which keeps you fascinated, which keeps you spellbound, and how it keeps you spellbound. I explained that in not great detail, but in some some detail. Now we have to understand two things to understand the concept of Maya properly. That is, in Sanskrit they call it Des and Kal. Des is the place or space, and Kal is time. Now this is a very fascinating analysis which we should understand. How this whole world works with Des and Kal, that is time and space. For anything to manifest in this world, we need space. Without space, I cannot exist, my house cannot exist, and your car cannot exist, nobody can exist. So space is one requirement, and everything appears in time. It appears today, tomorrow, whatever. It appears at a particular moment in time. Like, for example, you get an invitation from your friend for a dinner. The two most important thing in that is the time and venue. Where is the thing and what time? This is what you look at. Where and what? Where and what time? So this is also true if I'm sure all of you have attended some of the religious ceremonies in Hindu, system, whether it is getting into a new house, that is Greh Pravesh, or a marriage ceremony, or a ceremony of birth or death, or the Panditji does one thing first. You should observe that very carefully. If you have not observed, do that next time when you attend that ceremony. He will give you a sort of sankalp, and in that sankalp he starts Jambu Dvipe, Rajasthan Prante, Jaipur, Nagar, Mansarovar, and then he comes to your house. That is the place. He starts from the universe and he comes down to your place where you are sitting. So that is the first thing. And then he starts with Vikram Samvat 2078, and then he comes down in Mangsir Mas or Amavasya, Gyaras or Braspatwar or whatever. He comes to the time. These two things are an important and most significant part of any sankalp you do, any prayer you do, any religious ceremony you do. Because those things are done in a particular point in time and particular point in space. Without that, there is no sankalp. So everything in this universe happens that way. Every manifestation happens that way. Like when you go to a theater, the theater happens in a place and happens in a particular time. And then you have the third thing, that is the players who come. And we are all players there. All inhabitants of this earth are players in that theater. So in this universe, earth is a place and the time, movement of time, and we are the players. That is how this whole theater works. The theater works in that sense, that in the universe you identify the earth, which is your theater. The place, that the time keeps moving all the time, the place is decided, and we are the actors. So these three elements constitute the world of Maya. Now we should realize that no movement is possible without time. Though we say the time is moving because we put a watch and the needle of the watch keeps moving, so we feel the time is moving. Actually, time is static, but the things move in the time, and that gives you an impression that time is moving. The things move in the sense that things change. They keep transforming. Our body keeps transforming, and our house keeps transforming, and the sun keeps moving. So the things keep moving, and that gives us the impression that time is moving. Time is not moving. Time is static. Like space is static, but the things keep moving in the time. But nothing can move without time. That is another paradox of time. Time is static, but nothing can move without time. Now the question arises that you need a theater for anything to manifest. That theater is the space. The concept of time and space relativity is also a recent concept in Western world, but this has been a very ancient tradition in India, in our Indian philosophy. It starts from the origin of the Shastras, time and place, because without that there's no access point for anything in this universe. Now the question arises that for everything to exist, you need space. You also need space for the space to exist. It's a question. You need your space to locate your house. Okay, where do you construct your house? you buy a plot of land which is space. Now, space is spread over the entire universe. Now, before this space came in, you also needed space to create that space. How did you do that? So this is like going back in time that, God created this world, and who created the God and who created the creator of the God. So same way we will keep going back in space. So if we stop at one point that the space exists, and then we need that space for everything to perform, that is how we should move. We presume that way and we should move forward. Now, Charles Darwin said that time is one element of space. But I don't believe that. I think the other way around, that even space appears in time. The time is one which is constantly present, and space appears and goes away. Like Earth appears in time, Earth will be destroyed. The moon appears in time, moon will be destroyed. Time will be constantly there. Time doesn't appear and doesn't get dissolved, but the space can appear and can get dissolved. Even the entire space, the so-called universe, can be, the definition of Brahma is to expand. So it can be contracted. The whole space can also be contracted, and it can be become like a small little particle. That is also possible. But that all happens in time. So the time is the most important element of the functionality of this universe. You can call space equally important, but in my view, space is second most important element for the functional part of this universe. Now, this concept of time and space gives us the theater. In that theater, manifestation happens. Sometimes Ram comes and then Sita comes and then Lakshman comes and then Ravan comes and then Angad comes or Hanuman comes. They come and play their part and they interact and then they go away. Precisely that way, we are all playing our part in this vortex of space and time, which is this universe. This universe is just a theater where we manifest, we play our part, and we go away. Now, this is very important to understand. This is extremely important. We should understand this universe is nothing more than a theater. If we go beyond that, then we will start getting attached to one of those four elements which I mentioned: the wealth, the sex, the power, and the prestige. These four elements which will keep us engaged, and we will not be able to leave the theater without engagement. Now that is the Maya ka jal. That is what we call the net or a trap of Maya in which we are engaged all the time. Once we realize that this whole universe is a theater where there is a space and there is time, and we come and play, we do our acting as per the role decided by the director of the play. We play and we go away. That's what we have to understand. This is the most important part of this theater. Now, this is one I find very good way of understanding Maya. Now, in this context, I would also like to refer to Mandukya Upanishad a little bit. You see, life appears in three different forms every day for us. These three forms are visible and understandable for everybody of us. The first form is right now. We are sitting, we are in what we call, in Sanskrit, it's called Vaisnavar state, the state of physical consciousness. In this state, you feel the physical world. You can touch, you can see, you can hear, you can, taste. All your physical senses can understand the physical part of this world. So this is one state of our existence, which is called Vaisnava state of our existence. This is also called uh, one state of our human soul. The soul appears in this state where you are relating yourself to the physical world. That is one state. The second state is when you are in the dream state. At that time, you are not relating anything to the physical world. You are non-existent. You are lying. You don't realize whether you are lying, whether you exist or not. Your senses are not operating. Your mind is at rest, not completely, but generally you can say at rest. But then, in that state of human soul, the human mind gets fragmented in two parts. One part is yourself. Second part is the world you create in the dream. You create a world in the dream. Everything appears in the dream. All your friends will appear. All your relatives will appear. Your houses will appear. Your sport will appear. Your, you know, children may appear. All the appearances which you see in the physical world will appear in the dream state, but not physically. They appear in the form of light. It's called Tejas state. You also exist in Tejas state. You don't exist physically there, but it appears that you are physical. You see, this is what is called Maya. When you are in the dream state, you do everything physically. It appears that everything is happening physically, but no. When you wake up, you realize that it was all a play of light and sound. It was all light. It's called Tejas state, that is why. So the first state is the real physical state where you feel the physicality. The second state, you are Tejas state. But while in that state, you feel physicality, but when you wake up, you realize it was not physicality. It was just a dream. It was just a play of light and sound. Even sound was created in your mind. Light was created in your mind. Mind got fragmented into two parts. One part became yourself, and another part, rest of the world, which you are seeing in the dream state. So this is the second state. And the third state is the one where you are completely, deep sleep. Nothing exists. You don't exist. The bed on which you are sleeping doesn't exist. This world doesn't exist. Everything has dissolved. Yeah. It is the pure state of consciousness. Now, you can feel these three states every single day in your life. Now, which is the state which is true? Which reflects the real life? We don't know which reflects the real life. Now, to understand that, I'd like to tell you the story of Raja Janak. Maybe you have heard it before, but let me repeat it. There was a very famous king, we all know Raja Janak. He was very spiritual man. He had a great empire. He was a renowned king of his time. So one day he was sleeping in his bed. All of a sudden, he started dreaming, and in the dream, the head of his army comes and tells him that the neighboring king has attacked our territory. Let us go and protect it. So king asked the head of the army that please put together all the forces and let's go and fight this war to push that enemy outside our kingdom. So they all put together all the forces, and the fighting started. The horses started galloping, and elephants came, and the war began. The two sides fought a war for several days, several weeks continuously. Weeks passed away. Finally, the Janak lost the war, and all his army was destroyed. Most of his army was destroyed. And the other king took over his kingdom and he exiled him. He said, "You go out of the kingdom." He sent him outside the kingdom. He was struggling, walking. He was completely tired, exhausted. He walked for kilometers and kilometers, completely exhausted. He was feeling hungry. He was feeling thirsty. He couldn't get, proper food and water. Finally, he kept walking, walking. He went outside his kingdom. When he went to another place, another kingdom, he found that some people were distributing food. But by the time he reached there, it was already the last leg of distribution. But he stood in the queue and took his, uh, what you call little bit of food which was left was given to him at the end. But by the time he started eating, a crow came and even that food was spoiled. It fell on the ground, and the king was almost crying with hunger and thirst. At that time, he woke up. And when he woke up, his wife was, because he was trembling and he was sweating and all those things were happening. So his wife was very, terrified. She said, "What happened? What happened?" And he said, "This is true or that is true. This is true or that is true." He kept repeating this sentence. So wife thought that something has gone wrong. So she, woke up the ministers and the what you call the doctor of the kingdom. They all came there, and the Janak just keep repeating these two words. This is true or that is true. Nobody could understand what he meant. Finally, there was a great sage in that kingdom called Astavakra. He was invited to meet the king and discuss what is going on, to understand what is going on. So the Astavakra came and Janak kept repeating the same thing. This is true and that is true. Now Astavakra was a very wise man, so he immediately understood what he meant. And the background was there that he was sleeping and he woke up and this. So Astavakra understood very clearly that he is asking whether I am now in a big palace. I am surrounded with all my army, all my servants, my wife, my minister, they are all around me. This is true, or what I saw a little while ago in my dream that was true. When I lost my kingdom, I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was begging, and even the food which I got at the last moment, I could not eat, and I was starving. So this is what he's asking, whether this is true and that is true. This is true or that is true. Now, this is precisely the question we have. Whether this Vaishnava world is true or the dream world is true. We ask the same question. The world which we are living and sitting right now, is it true? Is it the right world? Or the world we see in the night in the dream state, is that the right world? Or when we see no world at all, when we are completely dead asleep in our bed, is that the right world? What is the right world? What is the truth? And that is where the answer comes. The truth is nowhere. Neither this world where we are living is the true world. This is also a play of Maya. The world in the dream world is also a play of Maya, which we realize very easily when we wake up. And the deep sleep is also not the true world because nothing exists there. What is the truth? The truth appears in your own consciousness. Your own consciousness is the truth. All these worlds appear in your consciousness. They appear and disappear. The physical world appears in your consciousness. The dream world appears in your consciousness. The deep sleep world appears in your consciousness, and then they get dissolved. So the truth is that you are the pure consciousness where everything appears and disappears. And why I'm telling this story is two, three reasons. The first is that the time and space both appear in your consciousness. They don't exist anywhere outside. Where the theater is played, that theater And when it is played, that time, they both appear in your consciousness, nowhere else. As soon as we leave this consciousness, this play of time and space disappears. There's no play at all. So that is one thing. Secondly, the time does not move as the clock moves. In a dream world, in half an hour, you can spend 20 years. You can get married and you can have children, and your child can get married within half an hour in your dream world. It can be a span of 50 years in which is shown within half an hour. And in the deep sleep, you can sleep for 5 hours. You don't feel at all that you slept. You don't realize time at all. No time existed. So the time also varies depending on the state of your consciousness. When you are waiting on a railway station for your friend, then the train is delayed. You feel so, desperate that the time is not passing, train is not coming, and you feel very uncomfortable. And similar thing when happens, you are winning a lottery somewhere, you are sitting in some gambling place and you are winning one after another. Then if you spend 1 hour, you say, why is the time passing so quickly? Let me win more and more. So the time is also relative to the situation where you are in, which we can feel easily in our dream state and in our physical state when we exist. So what I'm saying is that everything which you see in this universe, whether in the physical form, whether in the light form, whether in no form, and if you don't see, they all appear and disappear in your consciousness. The consciousness is the ultimate source of all this manifestation and all this non-manifestation and all this dissolution. Whatever dissolves, it dissolves there. Whatever appears, it appears there. It is also the birthplace of time and space. Time and space origins has its origin in the consciousness. There is nothing beyond that. And that is what we have to understand the play of Maya. The play of Maya, each play of Maya, as long as we are not conscious of our consciousness. When we start realizing this physical world, when we start realizing the dream world as the true, as a fascinating thing, as we are sitting in a theater or in a cinema hall and we are watching a film, and it appears that it is all true. We keep waiting for the next thing to happen while nothing is happening there. This is all a play of light and sound. Precisely that way, this world, whether it looks very physical and solid, you can touch. I'm touching this wooden piece here. It looks very solid, and I can touch my laptop, which is looking very solid. These are not anything solid. They are all liquid. They all disappear in your consciousness. They appear in your consciousness. They disappear in your consciousness, and the play continues for day and night, year and year, and life after life. Because if we remain engaged in this play, and at the end of our life, if we keep feeling that we have not achieved something here, then obviously we have to reappear in this world to achieve that thing, to continue that play. So this play continues not only day and night and day after and year after year, it continues life after life. That is how we have to understand this whole universe, the theater, as a theater of Maya. Now, don't get engaged, don't get captivated, don't get fascinated, don't get completely captured and spellbound, but keep your feeling that this is all appearing in your consciousness, this is all disappearing in your consciousness. You don't have to get engaged into that. So that is the true way of understanding the play of Maya. I think I could make myself clear, but if you have any questions, I'm open to that. And we will have at least one more chapter on Maya, to one more session on Maya to clarify some other concepts of this whole process. But Maya is a delusion which appears and disappears because we forget our consciousness. Everything appears in our consciousness, including our bond to the very root of the world, which is the time and space. Nothing can exist without time and space. That is the root of this universe. Even that appears in our consciousness. So the root of this whole universe is located in the consciousness, and that is what we have to understand. And once we understand that, then this whole world will look like a theater. You come, you play your role, and go back. That's it. So thank you very much. And now I'm open to the questions. And as I mentioned, we will not have session next Saturday because of Diwali. So we will skip that session and we'll have the session afterwards. But we'll continue on the topic of Maya at least one more time.